What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Election Analysis of 2024. And today I will be talking to you about my predictions for the 2024 election as of September 14th. So, obviously, a lot of stuff has happened since I've made my most recent video. The first debate happened. A lot of polling has showed a tightening race, and overall, this race is too close, really, to see who is clearly ahead. But right now, I will go through what I think is going to happen based off polling, past polling, a little gut feeling, and everything kind of put together to show you the map that I think is most likely as of today. To start, for the Trump safe states, these are states he'll win by 10 points or more, basically states that we know for a fact Donald Trump will carry. They probably won't visit these states. These states won't be invested in, and overall, in Trump's worst case scenario, these states are going to go to him. When you do that, you'll see Donald Trump is at 148 electoral votes. Now we can do the same thing for Vice President Kamala Harris. So we'll put these states that we know she is going to win without a doubt. Points states that could be by around 10 points at the end of the day. We'll add Vermont, Connecticut. We'll add D.C., Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, District 1. And that is it. So as you might be able to see from my most recent predictions, Donald Trump does have a few less safe electoral votes. There are a few reasons for this, and I'll go into that. But first, we'll go into his likely states, that being the state of Texas. Polls have showed him being up on average by about 4 to 6. I think it is higher than that. I think he'll end up winning the state by about 8 to 10 points, honestly, as of right now. But he'll certainly win it, the likely state for him, as well as the state of Florida. Polls are saying that Harris has brought this within 4. I don't know. Honestly, I think 3 to 4 points is the closest Florida can get. I honestly think Trump's going to easily expand on his 2020 win, and overall probably win the state by 5 points. I think 5 points is really the margin he's looking at right now in Florida. Now we can do Vice President Kamala Harris's likely states. We could add Minnesota to that tally. We could add Virginia to that tally. We could add New Mexico. And we could add Maine at large. I believe she'll win by about 5 points, Maine overall. Completely forgot Maine, District 2. Forgot about that. My bad. That is also going to be a Trump likely win. No doubt there. And then lastly, for Vice President Kamala Harris, we'll add the state of New Hampshire as a likely state, putting her at 225 electoral votes and former President Donald Trump at 219. Now we'll start looking into polls when we do the 7 swing states in Nebraska District 2, and we'll start in the state of Georgia. In the state of Georgia, Donald Trump is averaging a lead, 538. You can't see it right now. He's averaging a lead by about 0.8 of a percentage point. We'll round up to 1. But the most recent polls are actually showing Donald Trump up in Georgia. Surprisingly, yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris is up in one poll, and it's by 1 point, a statistical tie. Donald Trump performing very well. The betting odds have him at well over 60% in the state. As of right now, I do believe for this prediction, Donald Trump will win the state of Georgia by over a point. I think it'll be a lean margin right now. This is a flip from 2020. I believe this state is looking like a Trump state by 1 to 3 right now. And we'll go into his column, putting him at 235. Next, we could look at the state of North Carolina. This state has been trending, well, the opposite of Georgia. This is a state that Donald Trump won in 2020, and Kamala Harris has been, you can argue, making up ground in. But even these post-debate polls where they say Harris is going to get a debate bump, and this is her most likely state to flip, I mean, she's down by 2 and 3 in every single one of them. Now, the voter registration data, they've made up about 300,000 registered Republicans. I believe it was about 450. Now it's at like 130. It's complete insane numbers for the Republicans. They're making ground there. Yes, she might appeal to more black voters or whatever they want to say because she appeals demographic-wise. It does not matter at all. It's the swing voters, the independent voters that Donald Trump is barely leading right now. And that's why I believe right now North Carolina is also a lean Republican state, despite people saying that Vice President Kamala Harris has a good chance of flipping it. Do I think she can? Yes, but you look at the betting markets again, Trump has over a 60% chance in the state of North Carolina. Next, we're going to look at the state of Arizona. This state has been surprising me a lot. We can go there now. I honestly thought this state was a lost cause for Republicans, along with Georgia, to be honest, after the 2020 election, just seeing the suburban swing in places like Fulton County in Georgia and Maricopa in Arizona. I just thought there was no chance Donald Trump was going to have a chance to win this state back. But the recent polling here, I did not expect this, but the recent polling here has been pretty favorable towards him. You'll see basically a statistical tie in Arizona. He's up by 0.7, and even the polls that have a leader have him leading by just a little bit. And this is where I want to really go into deeper with you guys is if I see a poll that shows Donald Trump tied, I have expectation he will win that state because in 2020, 2016, he was underestimated in the polls by, for example, Wisconsin was 6 points he was underestimated. Arizona, they said Biden was going to win by 3 points, and he won by 0.34. I think it was 12,000 votes. And this is stuff you have to take into consideration when making a prediction or basically thinking about where you think a state's going to go. And overall, now that they showed Trump in the lead, I have no doubt Donald Trump, as of right now, obviously, in this prediction, if the election were held today, would have a lean win, 1 to 3 points again in the state of Arizona, putting him just 8 electoral votes away from the presidency. We have 2 flips already, and the next state I want to get into is the state of Nevada, 6 electoral votes, smaller pot there, but still a state that Donald Trump actually was a little overestimated in 2016, and still a state that Donald Trump has not won in 2016 nor 2020. It was one of the only states where he actually didn't really lose ground in 2020. I think there were about 4 or 5 states where he gained ground percentage-wise, or obviously gross, he netted more votes, but percentage-wise, he actually held his percentage. I think it was 2.6 in both 2016 and 2020. I think it's going to be closer, but you'll see recent polls here. I mean, this is a statistical, it's literally even. They have 46.8 to 46.8. They do not have a leader. And the recent polls do have Trump up. I mean, it's extremely hard. You look at the polls and you say, yeah, there's no leader. But I, again, take the Trump factor into consideration, and I think that right now there are less voters in the state, less voters to swing, obviously. Las Vegas has a big role in this state. It's a majority. I believe it's about 60% of the population that votes is in that county. So obviously you got to take that into consideration. But looking at the prediction map, I honestly think right now this is a tilt Donald Trump state, taking into consideration the fact this has overestimated Republicans in the past 2 elections. I do think Trump is in the lead right now, and if the election were held today, he would win. This is my prediction. But I think it would be under a point. I think it would be extremely close, but I do think it'd be a flip for him in the end. Next, I want to look at Nebraska District 2. I think this is going to be a lean Kamala Harris win. Polling shows that she's up about 4 or 5 points. I don't have a doubt that she'll end up winning it. Trump would need to have his best case scenario for this to really win. These suburbs here are just, in Omaha, are just really just killing him. The white suburban women, I hate to say it, but it's true. The white suburban women are just killing him in the suburbs, so it's difficult for him. I don't think he will win this county. And then it leads us with the 44 electoral votes in the Sun Belt. All of these won by Joe Biden in 2020. And Donald Trump has certainly made inroads here. First, I want to look at the state of Michigan. Michigan right now showing some very promising signs for the president. So if you look back in the past, you'll see Kamala Harris obviously overtook the lead, and she really had a 3-point lead at a point. I believe it was a 4-point lead in the state on average. And now it's just gone down to 1.7. The most recent polls, you saw early September, she was up, it was tied, you'd give her a slight edge, and as of recently, you'll see the most recent Insider Advantage poll has Trump up 1 in the state of Michigan. This poll really nailed Michigan in 2020. Very surprising that they have Trump up, and overall, this state, honestly, is on pace to be one of the closest states in this election, it looks like, even though for a moment, it seemed as if Kamala Harris was going to start running away in the state of Michigan. Donald Trump was able to kind of pull back a little bit and say, hold up, I'm still in this race. And honestly, if I had to make a prediction, I do think this state is a tilt Donald Trump state. In my most recent, I believe I had Michigan as a tilt Democrat state. But then again, you look at the average, you go into a state with a 1.5 lead against Donald Trump. Yeah, I think he's favored. The betting markets show him slight favorite. In Nate Silver as well. I do think he's in the lead in this state. I think he'll win it by a till margin again by under 1. The next state I want to go into is the state of Pennsylvania. It's 19 electoral votes. You look at Pennsylvania, again, a similar story, just not as far of a margin for Kamala Harris. You'll see she peaked at about 2 points in the state as a lead in the polling aggregate, and now she has gone down to all the way to 0.7, basically a statistical tie. Recent polling here, Donald Trump looks pretty good. If you're Donald Trump, this is where you want to be. People who are supporters of him are saying, "Oh no, Harris is making gains. She's up 1 or 2 nationally. She's up in these competitive swing states." And I'm like, man, Donald Trump is down by 0.7 in Pennsylvania in the aggregate. The recent polls have him up, and we know what this guy does. We know the turnout, the base he has. He's underestimated in the polls in 2016. He's underestimated in the polls in 2020. He's gonna do better in the polls in 2024. I have no doubt. Whether it's by a point or two, you clearly see a point or two would flip a state, which is why right now I think Pennsylvania is a state that Trump will win by a 1 to 3 point margin. I think this is a lean Republican state right now. I think it's closer to 1 to 2 points, but I don't think it's under 1. I think it's closer to 2 percentage point lead in this state, and I do believe Donald Trump would win Pennsylvania. Lastly, we'll look at Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes. This state has been less affected by change in the polls, honestly. I mean, it's been pretty consistent. Harris had a 4-point lead around in the average. It's tightened a little bit. It's about 3 points now. And the issue for Donald Trump is he hasn't seen a lead in this state. As far as these polls, as of late August, he hasn't seen a lead in this state, and I think it dates back a little bit further since he had his last lead. It could be when Harris first entered or against Joe Biden. It's been a minute since he had a lead in a poll. This is a state that overestimated Joe Biden by about 6 points. It said he was going to win Wisconsin by about 7, and he won by, I believe it was 26,000 votes or 28,000 votes he won by. So not exactly 8 points if you ask me. However, Harris up on average in the polls. She's up on the aggregate by about 3. I'm going to take this into consideration in my prediction and say that she has a tilt win in the state. I think in my recent prediction, I had Michigan and Wisconsin actually flipped because I thought Michigan was leaning the most left. But as of the polling data, it shows Michigan taking a sharp turn to the right and Wisconsin kind of staying steady towards Harris. So as you can see, this is a 302 to 236 Donald Trump Electoral College victory. The national popular vote, I believe, would be extremely tight. I'm talking within half of a percentage point. It could be a Trump win half a percentage point. It could be a Harris win half of a percentage point. But I think she would win it. I think it'd probably be about 49 to like 48.5, 49, 48, something like that in favor of Vice President Kamala Harris as of right now. But the national polls would be extremely close. But the Electoral College, not so much. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.